Well, good evening, Arkansas, and a much anticipated wait for this line of storms to come into the natural state. Again, our main focus is northwest Arkansas, as we've been talking about for much of the daytime hours, and of course, obviously all day yesterday as well. For the rest of us around the natural state, not expecting anything in the way of severe weather. Our main threat does continue to be up in the northwest corner of the state, and this is where we have a threat for considerable damage with the line of storm that is continuing to push out of Oklahoma into Arkansas. And this line is moving to the east at about 50 to 60 miles an hour. Now, we've already had reports across much of northwest Arkansas of winds in excess of 60 miles an hour across parts of Harrison and Fayetteville, Bentonville, places like that in the higher elevation. These are non-thunderstorm wind gusts. Our main line of storm is just now coming into the state, and this is going to affect mostly our folks in Benton County, Crawford County, and Washington County so far. Again, an extenuation of this watch or this warning is possible as it continues to push east, but a weakening trend has also been noted with the line as it continues to push off towards the east and northeast and eventually moving into Missouri and out of our hair. Now again, no tornado warnings in effect at this time, but we do have an extensive line of severe storms that is causing damaging winds. And again, now normally, yes, we do only go live for tornado warnings, but considering the extensive damage that we have seen with this line of storms across Oklahoma, we do want to go on and give you an update when it comes to this line of storms as it moves into northwest Arkansas, especially considering how late everything is. So let's go on and put a track on this line of storms. And again, this is moving off here roughly towards the east-northeast here at about 75 miles an hour. So on this forecast track with this line of storms. So this is going to put it in Stillwell here in about 17 minutes. Silent Springs about 19 minutes. Over in Bentonville about 34 minutes. And then of course on towards Fayetteville and Eureka Springs all within the next hour. This line of storm continues to push east here, again, about 75 miles an hour. As it does so, it's going to produce winds in excess of 70 miles an hour. Again, this is currently moving areas south of Highway 412 and north of I-40, but the northern extent of this as well. The highest winds are going to be in what you see is in this bow echo shape. Again, this is where the highest winds are as the surface winds punch into the back into the storm and push it out. So again, not only do we have strong wind aloft, but we also have those winds being pushed down to the surface. At one point, this line of storms was moving towards the east at about 100 miles an hour, just a little over an hour ago. Now, I know a lot of you are also concerned about the possibility of a little bit of rotation on this storm. Let's just take a look at that just to be sure and see. We're not seeing a lot, or maybe a few kinks in the line here, but again, no tornado potential immediately with this line. The bigger threat is going to be obviously our damaging winds here along the leading edge of this line. Again, you're already getting strong winds in northwest Arkansas. Those are ahead of the main line with the amount of wind energy that we have ahead of the line. I mentioned this in my videos throughout yesterday and this afternoon that we would see how high winds both ahead and behind the main line of storms. And again, this is exactly what we have seen, and we're going to see more winds. As a matter of fact, parts of western Oklahoma are still seeing winds in excess of 60 miles an hour, well behind. And we have a lot of damage seen out in parts of Oklahoma and Texas. Our chase team actually went out there today and did document a lot of different damaged areas, and we'll see more of that tomorrow on the storm hunters page. So once again, if you live from Bella Vista to Silent Springs, just west of Fayetteville, down to the very northwestern edges of Crawford County. Again, this line of storms is moving in about 70 miles an hour. So again, we have roughly about 20 to 30 minutes. Treat this as you would a tornado warning, simply because you have the possibility of damaging winds over the threat of a large area. We see this time and time again where a line of storms gets kind of basically ignored when it comes to the overall threat because it's not a tornado. But we've also seen time and time again that damaging winds can produce damage over a larger area across the warning path. So this is what, and with this being a considerable damage tag, this is why I'm more concerned about this than usual. Typically, we see warning 58 to 60 mile an hour wind. This is winds in excess of 70 miles an hour, and the storm motion moving northeast is 70 miles an hour again. Now, not much hail with this, and the overall tornado threat is low. As we talked about, that tornado threat would wane as we go into the overnight hours, but the damaging wind threat. Damaging wind threat does continue here for our folks in northwest Arkansas. We are also already getting several reports of people without power across parts of northwest Arkansas. This comes strictly from the winds ahead of the line of storms, and again, this main line is going to move in here as well now. And so once again, severe thunderstorm warning does continue here for our folks in Washington County, in Washington County, Crawford County, and Benton County here until 12:30 a.m. this evening. Again, this line of storms does have a considerable damage tag, but it will also be moving into an area that has already experienced high winds this evening. Do I expect a tornado threat out of this? No. But again, tornadoes can form with little or no warning. The biggest thing is continue to seek shelter lowest level of your house, away from windows. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible, because even with this, a severe thunderstorm line of storms can produce as much damage over a large area as a weak tornado. Again, this is the only area in the state that is expected to see severe weather. Let's just go on and zoom out and give you an overall view. As you can see, the southern extent of our line has weakened significantly. This is in correlation with the fact that our line of storm, that the main energy is starting to push off towards our northeast, and that is going to help with the overall aspect of this severe threat getting in and out of the state in relatively short order. Also, why you don't see a threat further south into the state. But once again, as I have mentioned over the last hour or so, this is the main risk area when it comes to seeing severe weather. Nobody else in the state is expected to see much in the way of severe weather this evening, but obviously we are going to be continuing to watch that threat over the next couple of hours. But let's go back here to our folks in northwest Arkansas here. But once again, so this is where our line of storms is continuing to push into northwest Arkansas. Again, for our folks in Bella Vista, Silent Springs, on down just west of Fayetteville and just northwest of the Alma and Fort Smith areas. This is where the current severe threat exists. We do have this is where your greatest threat for damaging winds in the short term exists. Let's go on and look at our velocity scan here. And this is what we look for when we look for the possibility of any rotation within the line of storm. Not seeing it, as a matter of fact, we are seeing somewhat of a weakening trend with the line. This is to be expected as it moves into the state. But again, the strongest area of winds right now is just to the north or just into the town of Tahlequah, Oklahoma, to just west of Oaks, to just south of Spavinaw, Oklahoma, and this is going to be moving into northwest Arkansas here in just a matter of a few minutes. So let's go on and take the strongest area here of damaging winds and put a track on it. Again, this is moving at 70 miles an hour. So on the current track, if it stays on this track a little bit to the north here, this is going to put it in Silent Spring in 17 minutes, on towards Gentry in 20 minutes, on towards Fayetteville and Bentonville here in about 35 minutes, on towards Rogers and Eureka Springs as we head towards the top of the hour. Again, I do expect a weakening trend, but don't let your guard down if you're in the warning area. Continue to take those precautions just as if you were in a tornado warning, simply because this is a very strong line of storms that is moving towards the east here at about 70 miles an hour. Once again, as I've talked about, our tornado threat is much lower than it was, say, just an hour ago, but it's definitely not zero. Just simply because of the fact that we have so much wind energy aloft with this both ahead and behind of the main line of storms. So let's go on and zoom out again, just to give you an idea. This is where our main threat now exists. We did actually see three lines earlier. One is in southern Oklahoma. This one a head that is producing 40 to 50 mile an hour winds, and then of course our main line of storm moving in out of northeastern Oklahoma. And again, this is moving off towards our northeast here. For our folks in Madison County and Carroll County, you still need to stay on guard because there's a possibility that this storm will continue moving off towards the northeast here. As it does weaken, it's going to take time for those winds to drop down into the 40, 50, and below severe limit. So again, severe thunderstorm warning does continue here for about another 15 minutes for our folks here in Benton, Crawford, and Washington counties. I do expect a downstream warning to be issued for our folks on the other side of this, on down further, of course towards Rogers, on towards Eureka Spring, on towards Huntsville, possibly staying just north of I-40 here. So Fort Smith, I don't think you'll be in that warning, but I do believe we'll see areas around Clarksville possibly getting into that warning again. The main threat for this is going to shift slowly towards the northeast here and weaken with time. And I know I've had several folks ask me about our folk over in north central to northeast Arkansas. Again, I don't expect our severe threat to extend much past roughly Baxter, Searcy counties, maybe the northern extent of Johnson and Pope counties, simply because your main energy is moving away from the line of storm. Will we have high winds after this? Absolutely, but the main threat for damaging winds will exist within this main line of storms. Winds in excess of 70 miles an hour. We've already have reports of winds of up to 60 miles an hour at the Fayetteville Regional Airport, and this was ahead of the main line of storms. So again, that's something we're going to have to so once again, we're going to have to watch for this possibility as this line moves. Also, travel as this line moves through is not recommended. Simply being there have been a lot of overturned trucks and tractor trailers, high-profile vehicles over the course of the evening hours as this line of storms has moved in, because you have high winds ahead of it, high winds during it, and high winds after. So travel is going to be very, very, very hard. As a reminder, we still have a wind advisory in effect for winds up to 50, possibly as high as 60 miles an hour in some spots. So especially in the mountainous areas, we're going to have to watch for that as well. So as you're traveling this evening, make sure to be cautious, if you can delay those travels a couple hours, this will be out of our hair here by 3 to 4 a.m. If you can delay those travels a couple hours, it is definitely recommended, especially in northwest Arkansas this evening. But if you have to travel, obviously do be careful across it, especially along I-49, Highway 412, Highway 71 here in northwest Arkansas. But once again, severe thunderstorm warning. This is not a tornado warning. However, continue to treat it as such because there is a considerable damage tag on this warning as it moves into northwest Arkansas. Once again, let's go back and take a look at our velocity scan here. Again, this is where the strongest winds are with this system here. So if you live in Prairie Grove to Silent Springs, you are going to see high winds here in just a few minutes. Again, this is moving towards the east here at about 70 miles an hour, so you're not going to have a lot of time to stay ahead of the storm. So if you hear the sound of my voice here in Silent Springs to Prairie Grove on down to just northwest of Fort Smith, you need to be taking this line very seriously, especially along the leading edge of this line here in Silent Springs and Prairie Grove. Again, 14 minutes for this line of severe storms as it continues to push east here into northwest Arkansas. Again, everywhere else in the state, no severe weather is expected. Our main severe threat does continue to be here in the northwest corner of the state this evening into the overnight hours. This will be out of here, like I mentioned, by 2 to 3 a.m. as this line continues to weaken as it continues to push east. But once again, Silent Spring here in about 14 minutes. Fayetteville and Springdale and Rogers here in about a half an hour or so. And then, of course, on down towards our folks in Huntsville as we head towards the 1 a.m. hour here on this early Monday morning here in the natural state. But again, for everybody else, it's going to be mainly a kind of a very brief line of storms, maybe a few showers, maybe a few rumbles of thunder. Nothing severe is expected outside of our folks here in northwest Arkansas this evening. Again, this is where our main line of storms is. And again, as you can see, our line of storm has weakened significantly from where it was just a couple hours ago. Just a couple hours ago, we had warnings from Kansas all the way down into northwest Texas as this line of storms moved. And now it's just this one little area here in the northwest corner of the state. And so that is to be expected, and that's exactly what we expected. And this is within our enhanced risk area, which is where the greatest potential for damaging winds did exist across the state. But once again, if you live anywhere else except for northwest Arkansas, you can go on and go to sleep and relax. This is strictly a northwest Arkansas event this evening into here over the next hour or so. And I'm going to be curious to see. And we have a report of a thunderstorm wind gust of 58 miles an hour here at the 11 o'clock hour. So again, this was actually not a thunderstorm wind gust. This was a more of a non-thunderstorm wind damaging wind threat with the initial round of showers that is bringing that actually down to the surface. So actually, this line of showers is bringing our winds down to the surface as well. So as this moves in, we will see those winds also in the 50 to 60 mile an hour winds, but again, not severe with those. And then, of course, if you have folks that live up in the Neosho to Joplin area, We also have a tornado possible tag with this severe thunderstorm warning. Again, this is going into Missouri, not affecting Arkansas, but as I mentioned, possibilities there for a tornado threat, especially in parts of the very far northwest corner into southwestern Missouri. Again, that threat should stay mostly into Missouri, as that is where the greatest shear is heading with our system as it continues to push off towards the northeast. So once again, we do have a severe thunderstorm warning here till for about another 10 minutes here for our folks in Washington, Crawford, and Benton counties. This line of storms is kind of slowing down a little bit here, but it's continuing to push off towards the northeast here at about 50 to 60 miles an hour. Update on the warning does continue here 70 mile an hour wind gust. The wind threats have been observed across this line of storm. So once again, as this continues to push off towards the northeast, wherever you see the bowing out of this line, this is where the greatest wind damage threat will exist. Can we see damaging wind anywhere within this line? Absolutely, but this is where our damaging wind risk does exist in the biggest extent. And again, for our folks here in northeastern Oklahoma, there is now also a tornado warning with the northern edge of this line, and that is going to push towards areas around Joplin and places like that. So that will not affect us here. But again, we're going to be continuing to watch here for our folks here in northwest Arkansas. Again, I'm still not seeing anything that resembles anything in terms of a tornado threat, but definitely seeing the threat for strong and damaging winds moving into places like Bella Vista, Rogers, Springdale, and Fayetteville, on down towards West Fork as well as Siloam Springs here very, very shortly, as this line of storm continues to push off towards the northeast here at 70 miles an hour. And if we look here just to the west of Siloam Springs, we could be seeing the potential of a brief spin up starting here. But regardless of rotation, this entire line is producing wind next to 60 to 70 miles an hour. So again, we already have reports of folks without power in northwest Arkansas. So those of you who still have power, there may be a threat and a chance that you will lose power as well, as this line of storms continues to push in from Oklahoma into Arkansas. For any viewers in eastern Oklahoma, outside of the very far outside of our warnings here north of I-40 and south of I-44, the rest of you are good to go. Our line of storms in the southern part of the state has weakened significantly, and that will continue to push into the Ouachita Mountains. We will see rumbles of thunder, especially across parts of the Ouachitas, Mena, Waldron, places like that. But again, the damaging wind risk has pretty much subsided on the southern edge of this line as it hits as I mentioned, as it hits this capping in place, and also the amount of warmer air aloft is creating a lid once again and preventing those storms from marching further east. So again, the main threat continues to be here in northwest Arkansas over the next over the next hour or so. And once again, severe thunderstorm warning, 70 mile per hour wind gust, less than a quarter inch hail. That continues to be our main threat here over the next roughly 20 to 30 minutes or so. And going to be curious if they do actually extend this on further down here into parts of eastern Washington County, eastern Benton County, Crawford County, and then of course on towards Franklin, Madison, and Carroll counties as well as this line of storm continues to push in. We're starting to see that weakening trend as I kind of expected. It's not there yet. Continue to be in that safe place. Again, treat a severe thunderstorm warning like you would a tornado warning. Lowest level of your house. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Again, even with the possibility of you not being hit by high winds, it is better to be safe, especially over this large of an area, especially with a line of storm that has a history of producing damage over really the past since about probably 4 p.m. This afternoon. Again, this line of storm was on the Texas Panhandle at 6 o'clock. It's now moving into Arkansas here just before 1 a.m. And so here's our new warning that has just been issued, and again, considerable damage tag does exist. This is for our folks now from Greenwood all the way up through Rogers. And so once again, this warning now goes until let's see what this warning goes to. So again, we have a severe thunderstorm warning now going out here for our folks in Benton, Washington, and Carroll counties. Or excuse me, Benton, Washington, and Crawford counties here, and this goes until 1:15 a.m. on this Monday morning. Again, wind gusts up to 70 miles an hour. This does include the towns of Fort Smith, Fayetteville, Springdale, Rogers, Bentonville, Van Buren, Siloam Springs, Sallisaw, Stillwell, Natural Dam, Mountainburg, Bella Vista, Lowell, Grove, Farmington, Alma, and Pea Ridge, Arkansas. So once again, this is with our line of storms that continues to push east here into northwest Arkansas. So once again, severe thunderstorm warning continues here for our folks now until 1:15 a.m. this morning. And again, so let's put a new track on this line of storm. Again, this is the only area in the state where we expect to see severe weather into the overnight hours. And an overall weakening trend is expected as this line continues to push off towards the east here. Again, this is moving towards the east here about 70 miles an hour. So on the forecast track, that is going to put it here into Siloam Springs in about 3 to 4 minutes here, in Fort Smith in about 19 minutes, on towards Van Buren and Fayetteville here in about 20 minutes, on towards Springdale, Rogers here in about 24 minutes. And if the line does continue on downstream, we will also see that line of storm move into places like Berryville here in about 50 minutes or so. So once again, the warning's only about 45 minutes long. So once again, also now getting reports of 75 mile an hour wind gusts, and this is within the line of storms here in coming out of Oklahoma into northwest Arkansas. So once again, if you live here in Benton, Washington, Sebastian, and Crawford counties, you need to be watching out for wind gusts in excess of 75 miles per hour. Again, this is moving into Gentry, Siloam Springs, Watts, Westville here in just a matter of a few minutes. And then, of course, on down towards Stillwell and on down towards Fort Smith as well. And just to the north of Greenwood, again, this is where this main area and line of storm is. Let's look at our velocity scan once again, just to get an idea here of what we are looking at. You can start to see several notches along this line of storms, and then of course the main area of very high winds now pushing into Siloam Springs here in just a matter of a few moments. Again, this is moving towards the northeast here, east-northeast roughly at about 70 miles an hour. So this is going to come in and it's going to be gone here in just a matter of a few minutes. But once again, getting a lot of reports wind gusts in excess of 75 miles an hour with this line of storms. Again, the main threat continues to be basically from Siloam Springs on down towards Fayetteville, Alma, Fort Smith, and then up towards Rogers and Bella Vista over the next hour or so. And again, on downstream, our folks in Eureka Springs and Huntsville, on down towards Ozark, you definitely need to be watching this line of storms closely as it continues to push off towards the east-northeast here at about 70 miles per hour. That's going down this line of storms here. I do want to zoom in on one area of concern that I'm starting to watch here. This little area of rotation is starting to develop just to the south of Salisal. Again, tornado threat's low, but not zero this evening. It's going to be something we're going to have to watch out for here, are these brief spin-ups as they move towards the northeast. So on that track of this particular one, now if this did happen to go warned, this would be tracking towards the northeast here at about 70. Let me go on and take that off really fast here. So once again, that would be moving off towards the northeast here at about 70 miles an hour. So on that forecast track, we're going to take it as far out as we can. That would be taking it in towards the Mountainburg area here in about 30 minutes. So again, no tornado warnings in effect yet with this line, but we're going to have to be watching this very closely as it moves into northwest Arkansas. Again, regardless of tornado threat, I want to harp on this. Again, lowest level of your house, away from windows, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible, simply being because we do have the risk for damaging wind of 70 miles an hour, and those winds can actually do more damage over a larger scale than a weak EF0, EF1 tornado. We've already had reports of wind damage across much of the area. Those were from non-thunderstorm winds. And now we have our main line of storms moving in, as we've talked about, late night. And that is when the main threat was going to be into the overnight hours. And again, this is mainly for our folks here in northwest Arkansas. Again, considerable damage tag has been applied to this line of storms. So if you have, again, you should have already made preparations for this this line of storms well in advance of now. So let's go back to our reflectivity view, and we're going to be having to watch this because these areas where the line is breaking apart. These are the areas that we're going to have to watch for that possibility here, where we could see a brief tornado or two form along this line as it moves in. Again, we are losing our instability, we're losing our daytime heating, so that will help to supersede a lot of our tornado threat. But there's plenty of wind energy with this system, and that wind energy can help to negate some of the other factors that we don't have right now. But again, if you live in Rogers, Springdale, Fayetteville, and Fort Smith, you need to be in the lowest level of your house just in case. Again, center part away from windows. If you have a storm shelter, great. If not, a bathroom, something, a center part, put pillows, blankets, whatever you can find to protect you and your family. If you have a bicycle helmet, add it, because head injuries are the number one thing we see in advance of damage reports. Is when it involves injuries, that's what we see first. So once again, severe thunderstorm warning does continue here for our folks in northwest Arkansas until 1:15 a.m. this morning. And this will continue now all the way down from Greenwood to Fort Smith to Fayetteville, Springdale, Rogers, Bella Vista, Siloam Springs. Immediately, you are now seeing the main line of storms. But once again, They are moving at 65 to 70 miles per hour towards the northeast here, and they are going to be moving on a pace that is going to take them into Missouri here, hopefully before the 3 a.m. hour. But if they continue east, they will move into a area of much less instability, much less dynamics across the state, and therefore a weakening trend will be expected eventually, but again, not right now. So let's go back down here, folks. The area here just to the west of Fort Smith, this area here continues to grab my attention. Again, no tornado warning in effect at this time. But let's go back and look at our velocity scan once again, and you can see here these several kinks in this line where that possibility exists for a brief spin up tornado. And I would not be shocked to see a few of those as they go back and do damage surveys in a couple of days. Again, nothing right now of extreme. The biggest story is going to be our damaging winds moving into Decatur, Gentry, Silent Springs, and Watts. Again, this is winds in excess of 70 miles an hour over this part. And this is going to move into Bella Vista, Rogers, Springdale, here very, very shortly. So once again, if you live in northwest Arkansas and you hear the sound of a voice, lowest level of your house, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Again, this is where the greatest potential exists for severe weather this evening into the overnight hours, and this is where the threat will continue for the possibility as we head over the next couple of hours. But a weakening trend should be seen as we head deeper into the night. So let's put a track on the strongest area of winds right now, and this is going to be moving here, just moving through Silent Springs right now. So let's put a track on this. This is moving towards the northeast here at 70 miles per hour. So this is going to put it into Gentry here in just a matter of a few minutes, on towards Fayetteville in 16 minutes, Bentonville in 17 minutes, Eureka Springs in 38 minutes, then of course on down towards Berryville and Green Forest, if the line of storms does continue to produce the amount of winds that it has so far and stay at its severest point. But let's go back and look at our reflectivity view. Again, you can see a continuation of the breaking apart of the line. One that is an indication of the amount of shear that we have in place. It's also a good indication of the fact that the line is starting to weaken as it moves into northwest Arkansas. And again, let's go and move this radar over now as we continue to see this. So again, if you live in Harrison, if you live in Clarksville, if you live in Ozark, if you live in Huntsville, and Eureka Spring, this is your first alert. This is the next areas where, if this line of storm continues to push east at its strength that is at now, this is the next area we're going to be watching for the possibility of damaging winds. 70 mile an hour winds are seen. Again, I'm getting several reports of wind damages and power outages across much of northwest Arkansas, and that is with the main line as it continues to push into the state here from Oklahoma. Once again, our considerable damage threat will continue over the entire warning area. This does include all of Washington counties, all of Benton County, all of Crawford County, and then the northern, roughly half of Sebastian County as well. But once again, as I mentioned, we do have a severe thunderstorm warning that does continue here until 1:15 a.m. Reason why I am live this evening is because we have seen an extensive amount of damage across much of Oklahoma and Texas this afternoon. We've seen non-thunderstorm wind gusts in excess of 60 miles an hour across much of northwest Arkansas this afternoon and this evening. And we continue to see this as it moves into northwest Arkansas. Now we have our mainline storm that is producing wind gusts up to 75 miles an hour as well. So, as this pushes northeast, again, the northern edge of this line is going to move quicker than the southern edge of the line, and I'm going to be shocked to see if we don't see actually a weakening trend with the southern edge of this line, but we don't see it yet. However, again, this line of storm is moving into a much more stable environment the further east it goes. But again, our enhanced risk and slight risk areas do encompass much of northwest Arkansas, and this is where obviously our severe threat does exist this evening. 60 to 70 mile an hour winds, quarter size hail. Our tornado threat is very, very low, but definitely not zero. However, it's much less than what it was a few hours ago, as our main entity starts to move off towards the northeast away from the state. And that's why you are seeing this risk mainly for northwest Arkansas only, one coupled with our cold front that moved through and gave us cooler air on Friday and Saturday. That has helped to kind of stabilize a lot of the atmosphere across the state. And what happened is that the warm moist air is just now starting to get into the state ahead of our cold front that's going to come back and wipe it out once again. But once again, that does not mean let your guard down. That does not mean forget about it. That does not mean go to bed. You can go to bed. Just be aware that you could have a strong line of storms move through over the next hour or so as this continues to push off towards the northeast here at 60 to 70 miles per hour, especially on the northern edge of this line, moving into northwest Arkansas. So let's go back here and zoom in once again. So this is for our folks here. We're going to take a rundown of the entire area. So the line is currently moving into Sulphur Springs, Gravette, Decatur, Gentry. Is now passed through Siloam Springs. Your severe threat's over with. Moving through Watts right now. It's going to be moving into Prairie Grove soon. And of course, on down here, it's just now moving into parts of Stillwell, Oklahoma, and then of course on down here, and then of course on down here towards parts of the Fort Smith area as well. And breaking news, we now have a brand new tornado warning, and this has been issued for Crawford County here until for Crawford and Sebastian counties here until 1:15 in the morning. So this goes for here, and this is with that area that I was talking about, that area of rotation that was moving out of Oklahoma into Arkansas. So once again, a tornado warning has been issued for Crawford and Sebastian counties until 1:15 a.m. this morning. This does include the town of Fort Smith, Van Buren, Cedarville, Mountainburg, Notre Dame, Alma, Barling, Muldrow, Roland, Lavaca, Mulberry, Dyer, Chester, Rudy, Fort Smith Regional Airport, Lee Creek. So once again, a tornado warning has been issued now for Crawford and Sebastian County. So now, what we're going to do is shift focus now. So now that we have a tornado warning in effect, I'm not going to forget about you folks here in northwest Arkansas, where we have a continuation of a damaging wind threat. But let's go. But let's go on and zoom in here to our folks here in northwest Arkansas, where we have a potential of a tornado moving into the air. So let's go on and look at our velocity scan here, and again, this gives you a good indication of where any potential tornado would be. So once again, if this is just to the northwest, northeast of Muldrow, all the way down. So basically, from just west of Fort Smith to the north, so basically from just south of I-40 to just north of Highway 10 to around US 59. This is just to the east of Muldrow, Oklahoma, and this is moving towards the east here at 60 miles an hour. So not, and the reason why there is a warning in effect is because you see all these kinks along this line, meaning a tornado tornado could form with little or no warning. So once again, we have a tornado warning in effect now for Crawford and Sebastian County. Let's go on and put a track on this as well for us here. So again, this is the entire area. And not only do we have to worry about the possibility of damaging winds, but now we have to worry about the possibility of a few isolated tornadoes as well along the leading edge of this line of storms as well. So again, this is moving off towards the northeast here at about 70 miles an hour. So again, this is going to put this into areas of Fort Smith here in about 8 minutes, Van Buren in 10 minutes, Alma in 17 minutes, Ozark in 36 minutes, Clarksville here in about an hour. So once again, if you live in Fort Smith, Van Buren, Rudy, Mountainburg, you need to be taking your tornado precautions immediately. Lowest level of your house, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Center part of your house, pillows, blankets, whatever you can find. So again, it is almost 1 a.m. A lot of folks are asleep. If you know anybody, call them, wake them up, say, hey, we have a tornado warning in effect. Again, Mountainburg, Rudy, Van Buren, Fort Smith, this area is notorious, and we've seen several QLCS type tornado events over this area over the years. And once again, you know, it's nothing to be. It is nothing new to be expected. Again, we will get through this as we always do. So again, right now there's 2 different areas of possibilities that I'm watching right now for the potential areas of rotation. One of those is right here, and I'm going to bring this down a little bit. One of them, we have one here, we have one here, and we have one down here. So again, your 2 main areas of rotation, and here's our main area of rotation now is just to the north of Muldrow, and this is moving into, and this is again 70 miles an hour, and this is moving towards the northeast here. But if you live in Fort Smith, Van Buren, Rudy, Mountainburg, you need to be taking your tornado precaution now. Lowest level of your house, put as many walls in between you and the outside as possible, because this line of storms is moving towards the east northeast here at 70 miles per hour. Now, again, I don't want to take anything away from our folks in northwest Arkansas as well. If you live in Bella Vista, Rogers, Springdale, and Fayetteville, we also have damaging winds as well, in excess of 75 miles an hour, moving into the area. And we've already had reports of damage. Already have reports of high winds, excess of 60 miles an hour. Well, now we have the possibility of a tornado as well down here in Crawford and Sebastian counties as well. Again, this is the area that I've been watching, that I mentioned a little bit ago, that we had to watch for that possibility. In fact, and it turns out that they did in fact issue a warning for the area. Once again, Roland, just to the north of Roland, here just to the west here of Mountainburg. This is the main two areas that I'm continuing to watch. Again, not seeing anything significant, nothing on the ground. That's a very good thing. But any one of these kinks along the leading edge of this line, that is where the greatest potential exists for the possibility of a tornado. So again, if you live in Fort Smith, if you live in Barling, Alma, Mountainburg, Van Buren, you need to be taking your tornado precaution now. Lowest level of your house, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Again, if you don't have a storm shelter, the center part, because what happens is damage any debris from a tornado will hit those outside walls, hit those windows, and that'll be the first thing you see. So once again, tornado warning does continue here for our folks in Crawford County and Sebastian County this evening. And so once again, we are also continuing to watch for the possibility of damaging winds in excess of 70 miles per hour, as well as a few spin-up tornadoes as this line moves into Crawford and Sebastian counties as well. And then, of course, obviously, not to forget about our folks here in Northwest Arkansas. But we do still have that damaging wind threat here for our folks in Northwest Arkansas as well. So once again, tornado warning does continue here for our folks in Fort Smith, Van Buren, Mountainburg, Alma, Rudy, Chester. If you live anywhere in this area, you need to be in the lowest level of your house. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Be pillows, blankets, stuff to cover up your head, because head injuries are the number one thing we see when it comes to tornadic events, and that is the number one thing we see when it comes to wind damage or tornado damage, is that your head will be the first thing affected. So once again, tornado warning does continue here for our folks in Northwest Arkansas, here in Crawford and Sebastian counties, here until 1:15 a.m. this morning. But once again, the entire line of storms does continue to be severe. Let's go back out and look at our reflectivity view, just to give you an idea. Once again, we do have this entire line of storms from Bella Vista, Rogers, Springdale, Fayetteville, on down towards Alma and Greenwood, where the line of storms is severe, 70 mile an hour winds, along with the possibility of a tornado moving into the. And so now Fort Smith has been removed from that warning, and it now just includes our folks here in Crawford County, as the main area has moved off towards the northeast. Main area of rotation now exists for our folks in Van Buren. So folks, if you live in Alma and Fort Smith, again, we still expect, Alma, you are still under the warning. Take your tornado precautions. Van Buren, take your tornado precautions. If you live in Sebastian County, that warning is just to your north. If you live in Fort Smith, continue taking your tornado precautions. Lowest level of your house. Put as many walls in between you and the outside as possible. Let's go back to our velocity scan again. This is moving off towards the northeast here at 70 miles per hour. You don't have a lot of warning. Rudy, Mountainburg, Chester, Dyer, Alma. You need to be taking your tornado precaution right now. Lowest level of your house. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Sebastian County, your tornado warning has been canceled. However, Crawford County, your warning does continue here until 1:15 a.m. this morning. And again, this is in effect for this line of storms, where we have several kinks along this line that could produce brief spin-up tornadoes. So not only do we have that possibility of brief spin-ups, basically, but we also have the possibility of damaging winds in excess of 70 miles per hour as well. So once again, this is the warning from the National Weather Service. Potential tornadoes exist along the line from short to 3 miles northeast of Roland, moving northeast to 50 miles per hour. And so again, anywhere within this warning, we could see a brief spin up or two as this line moves into Van Buren, Rudy, Mountainburg here in northwest Arkansas. Again, this is for Crawford County. Our tornado warning for Sebastian County has been canceled. But if you live in Alma, Van Buren, you need to be in a safe place right now. Lowest level of your house. Put as many walls in between you and the outside as possible. Center part of your house. Be sure to cover up your head as well. Helmets, pillows, because head injuries are one of the first things we see when it comes to tornado damage. But again, not only do we have a tornado threat, we also have a damaging wind threat with as well. I recently went live to talk about our damaging wind risk because it is a considerable risk with winds in excess of 70 miles an hour. We've also had damage ahead of the main line as well. So again, this is a very dynamic system, a very intense system with a lot of wind energy, and still has that possibility to produce a few brief tornadoes or damaging winds over the next couple of hours. So our folks in Carroll, Madison, and Franklin County, you are next on the list when it comes to potentially seeing a warning downstream. And again, this is where the main threat for this evening does continue. So what I'm going to do here, we are going to put a track first off on the main line of storms here. So this is for our Bow Echo, which is where our winds actually 70 miles an hour are, and this is moving towards the east-northeast here, now about 75 miles an hour. So again, this is going to put it in Springdale in 5 minutes, Rogers in 6 minutes, Fayetteville 7 minutes, then of course on down towards Green Forest in 36 minutes, even on towards Harrison here in about 30 minutes or so. So let me move the radar over here just to give you an idea of what we're talking about. Also, so let's take a look here again as well. So we're going to cover both ends of this line. We also have our tornado warning threat. And again, this exists with these several kinks in this line here just to the north of Fort Smith. And again, this moving towards the northeast here. This end of the line is on moving towards the northeast at about 50 miles per hour. But once again, it's moving through Van Buren right now. Alma, you have 11 minutes. Mountainburg 16 minutes. And then of course on down towards Dyer, Mulberry, Ozark as we head towards the bottom of the hour. Again, that is if this continues to be a tornadic potential as it moves into the state once again. So once again, tornado warning does continue here for our folks in Crawford County. And you can see just to the north of Rudy, and this is where our current, and just to the north of Rudy, this is where the current area of rotation is, and this is moving off towards the northeast here at about 60 to 70 miles an hour. So this is going to track right towards Benton or Mountainburg, and then of course on over towards Rudy as well here in just a matter of a few minutes. So once again, so let's put a track just on. So let's put a track just on this area of rotation. Again, moving off towards the northeast here at about 50 to 60 miles an hour. So on that track, it is going to put it into Rudy here in about 8 minutes, Mountainburg in 18 minutes, and then of course if we do see this continue on towards St. Paul here in about 49 minutes or so. But once again, if you live in Alma, if you live in Van Buren, if you live in Rudy, if you live in Mountainburg, you need to continue taking your tornado precautions. Lowest level of your house, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Again, this is a damaging wind risk as well as a tornado threat, and this will continue to move off towards the northeast here at about 70 miles per hour. So once again, tornado warning does continue for Van Buren, Alma, Rudy, just west of Mountainburg, and Chester. Again, damaging winds can produce as much damage as a weak tornado. The focus right now is on our tornado warning, because these are moving at 60 to 70 miles per hour. You do not have a lot of warning. Again, Rudy, Mountainburg, Chester, you need to be in a safe place right now. Lowest level of your house. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Again, on downstream, let's zoom out once again and take a look at the overall threat. Again, for our folks in Carroll County, Madison County, and Franklin County, you're next in line. This is your first alert that you're going to be seeing the potential for damaging winds, to possibly a tornado, as it continues to push off towards the northeast here at 70 miles per hour. I want to reiterate that. You have wind gusts up to 75 miles per hour. You have winds. The line of storm is moving at 70 miles per hour. Highway speeds, folks. You don't have a lot of time to take shelter. If you hear the sound of my voice, lowest level of your house, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Take this threat seriously. There have been damage. There has been injuries in Oklahoma today. There's been tornadoes. There's been high winds. At one point there was a wind gust of 114 miles an hour with this line of storm. Take this threat seriously, even though it's mainly a thunderstorm risk. But again, our folks in Crawford County, we do still have a tornado warning in effect as well. So once again, let's go back to our folks here in Crawford County. Zoom back in. Again, not seeing anything too much in the way of significant rotation. But again, anywhere along this line of storm, the kinks in the line right now are mainly over Leisurely Drive. Also here along Hightower Road. This is where your main area of rotation is going to be. And then, of course, Wagon Wheel Road as well. So this is where our main area of rotation is, moving off towards the northeast. So if you live in Mountainburg, you need to be taking your tornado precautions immediately. Again, so actually our tornado warning has now been canceled as the main line of storm continues to push off towards the northeast. So once again, tornado warning has been canceled, but severe thunderstorm warning does continue here for a few more minutes here for our folks in Crawford, Washington, Sebastian, and Benton counties here in northwest Arkansas. Again, let's zoom back in here to our folks up here. So now, not forgetting our folks up here in Rogers and Bella Vista, Lowell. This is where our line of storms continues to push in and through. If you live west of this line, your severe threat is now over. Again, high winds will exist throughout much of the evening hours through much of the overnight hours into the morning on Monday. But the tornado risk has gone down. Severe threat has gone down behind this line of storms again. But if you live in Garfield, Avoca, Springdale, Johnson, Fayetteville, you need to be taking your tornado precautions, even though it's a severe thunderstorm warning, simply because this line is producing winds in excess of 70 miles per hour. Again, let's zoom out here again and look. Let's look down here. So once again, for our folks in Fayetteville, watching this area of rotation here, just to the southwest of Prairie Grove. And this is moving off towards the northeast here at 70 miles per hour. And again, there is some weak rotation along this line just to the south of Lincoln. So again, this would affect areas in Prairie Grove, Greenland, Fayetteville, Johnson, places like that. So again, even though it's not a tornado warning, we still have a severe thunderstorm warning. And again, as a reminder, we say this time and time again, severe thunderstorms can produce a tornado with little or no warning. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. It is February 27th. Again, this is our third or fourth severe event in the last couple of weeks. So again, it's wintertime, I know, but again, severe weather can happen. It was cool much of the day. Then all of a sudden, guess what? Now we have severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings in effect. Just shows you how volatile the atmosphere has been this winter season so far. So once again, just to go over everything once again, severe thunderstorm warning does continue here for our folks in Crawford, Sebastian, Washington, and Benton counties until 1:15 a.m. on this Monday morning. Moving northeast here about 66 to 70 miles an hour. Wind gusts in excess of 70 miles per hour along this line of storms. Again, Fort Smith, Fayetteville, Springdale, Rogers, Bentonville, Van Buren, Silent Springs, Stillwell, Cedarville, Mountainburg, Notre Dame, Bella Vista, Lowell, Farmington, Alma, Pea Ridge, Barling, Prairie Grove, as well as this line of storms. Again, west of this line of storms, your threat is over for the night. And again, if you live elsewhere in the state, there is the severe threat is very, very low throughout the rest of the evening hours. Let's go back to our reflectivity view just to give you an idea of what's going on. Now again, as a reminder, just as a reminder, we are still going to be seeing a line of storms move through the state. However, that does not mean that it's going to be severe, because you can have a line of storm move through and it not be severe, and that's kind of what we expected. As we go again, this entire area will be out of the state by sunrise or shortly after on Monday morning. But once again, our main line of storms continues to be here in northwest Arkansas. We're seeing a little bit of a weakening trend on the southern end of the line, but still on our northern end, we definitely still have that threat for strong damaging wind. I'm continuing to watch this area around Prairie Grove as this continues to look more and more intense. Let's go back to our velocity view here just to give you an idea, our velocity view just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. It's where these red and greens are touching, and this right here is where. Let's go and move this rotation view here over. So right here, coming into the Prairie Grove area, is where there is still a little bit of rotation on this line of storms. Again, not a lot, but it is definitely, again, our tornado threat is extremely low, but definitely not zero. I'm still getting reports of our sirens going off in Mountainburg, Van Buren, Alma. Again, those places, your tornado warning has been canceled, and we do have a severe thunderstorm warning that does continue here until 1:15 a.m. on this Monday morning. I fully expect an extension further east shortly for our folks further east. But once again, severe thunderstorm warning continues here for a few more minutes. Let's go on and put a new track. Let's go back to our reflectivity view here and put a track on this entire line of storms as it continues to push off towards the east-northeast here at about 70 miles per hour. Again, on this track. So now we're going to take this. Let me clear that out real quick. Let's take this on this whole line of storms here and take the track all the way down. So we're going to take it all the way down here through Fort Smith and Fayetteville area. Again, it's moving off towards the northeast here. It's at now upwards of almost 80 miles per hour. So, folks, these storms are starting to book it east. Again, so if you live in Prairie Creek, It's Fayetteville, West Fork. It's over you now. You're Ricky Springs here in about 12 minutes. Huntsville about 16 minutes. Berryville about 19 minutes. Then of course on towards Branson and Harrison as we head towards the 2 a.m. hour. Again, not a storm just weakening, but it's still significantly a threat as it moves further east into the state, at least through parts of northwest Arkansas. As it gets further east, I do expect the weakening trend to continue as it continues to push off towards the northeast. Again, not only have we had the threat for tornadoes this evening, but we also have had a threat for damaging winds as well. And so so we now have a brand new severe thunderstorm warning, and this goes for this one now goes for Benton, Carroll, Crawford, Franklin, Madison, Sebastian, Washington counties until 2 a.m. this morning. Now, one thing to note about this is that this is just a general thunderstorm warning. This one is not a considerable damage tag on it. So with that being said, when our considerable damage tag does expire, we're going to break away from our coverage as our threat is starting to lessen. Like I said, we are going from 70, 80 mile per hour winds to 60 and eventually down to 50, 40 mile an hour winds with this line of storms. Again, you're going from a considerable damage threat now to just a general severe thunderstorm risk. Don't let your guard down though, but this is continuing to on that weakening trend. Our wind gusts have gone from 70 miles per hour down to 60 miles per hour. Again, a new warning has been issued for Fayetteville, down to Ozark, down to Berryville, and Eureka Springs. But if you notice the difference in the warnings, considerable tag, non-considerable tag. So once again, this is where our warnings are starting to become a little bit less severe as it moves a little bit deeper into Arkansas. So once again, just to let everybody know, let's go look at our velocity scan once again here. So just to give you an idea on what we are, and not zoom in there obviously. But let's go on and look here once again at this particular area. So this is my concern going forward, is that how much wind energy does this thing have left as it moves into Madison, Franklin, and Carroll counties. Again, still watching the area here around the Prairie Grove area. I'm still seeing some rotation just over the Prairie Grove area. Not a lot, but it is definitely there still, and we definitely still have to watch this storm. But again, these storms can produce damage with no tornado warning, because we have seen these produce damage over a larger area with just a damaging wind threat. So once again, no tornado warnings in effect, but we do have multiple severe thunderstorm warnings on the board now for basically 6 counties here in northwest Arkansas. Once again, special weather statements exist just east of this into the Little Rock warning area. But again, we are continuing to watch this line as it moves off towards the northeast here at about roughly 60 miles per hour. And as this line of storms continues to push east, it is going to continue to weaken as it moves east. But I say damaging winds to 60 miles per hour. Not expecting hail with this, but if you live west of this line, your threat is over for this evening. So basically, let's go back to our reflectivity view again here, just to give it an answer. So if you live roughly west of 49, here in about another 20 minutes, your threat will be over with, and you can go on and go to bed. But east of this line, your threat does continue here for a little bit longer. However, our threat for considerable damage threat or destructive damage threat is starting to lessen just a little bit. So we did have a thunderstorm wind gust, 57 miles per hour from Highfield, Arkansas, around 1 a.m. Again, coming from this general area here across state. So once again, we have a general thunderstorm warning now in effect. 60 mile per hour winds, quarter-size hail for 6 counties in northwest Arkansas. And we still expect high winds. We still expect non-thunderstorm wind gusts of 30 to 50 miles per hour overnight into the morning hours on Monday, as this whole system continues to push out of our region and into the Ohio Valley by tomorrow afternoon. But once again, I'll be back live as conditions warrant. Going to take a small break, grab a drink. I will be back as conditions warrant right here on your source for all things Arkansas weather.